Everyone, this is Chris Grosso with the Healing Journey web series presented by Toivo by Advocacy Unlimited. And my guest today is Cheryl Abrams. Cheryl, thank you so much for being with me today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so I want to read your bio, Cheryl. I was just saying before we started this might be the most fun bio I've ever received. So I want to read it in its full-on entirety. Sometimes I'll edit these down. We're not going to do that with this one. Cheryl Abram is the author of Firing God and Tales from Eternity, Armageddon, Orgasms, Kittens, and Gravity. Fun and entertaining pointers to the truth. She's the single mother of Jared, Naomi, Paul, and Daniel. Cheryl was at the end of her rope. Her life was falling apart on every level, and as a devout Christian, she had succeeded in making herself unworthy, incomplete, and separate from God. Then one day she took a leap of doubt and fired the object she worshipped. This was a suicidal act that could not be rushed nor avoided. The terrible beauty that was this leap could not be sought or found. In that moment, something was remembered after having, seemingly, been dismembered. Cheryl's outward circumstances have not miraculously improved. Her credit is still terrible. She still gets angry, sad, happy, grossed out, and aroused, sometimes in that order. Student loans are still the bane of her existence, and she still has 15 stubborn pounds to lose. Cheryl does not have a sudden story of allowing material abundance into her life or constantly seeing everything as one. Big ups to those who do have that story. It's a good one. Rather, as she puts it, it's still selfishly about me, but the me is not the me that I thought it was. A twice divorced working mom, daily navigating the horrific traffic from Northern Virginia to Washington, D.C., Cheryl only wanted to be happy when happiness was unnecessary, or was necessary, excuse me. Now that it isn't, Cheryl can finally live. And for more info, please visit www.cherylabram.com. And for our audience, that link will be posted right below this conversation. So Cheryl, again, thank you so much for joining me today. I feel like our whole conversation could just be about that bio. There is so much fun stuff in there. um, and maybe we'll revisit some of that. The second book that I mentioned from your bio, Tales from Eternity, Armageddon, Orgasms, Kittens, and Gravity, fun and entertaining pointers to the truth. That's what compelled me to reach out to you and invite you onto this show. It's a fantastic book. As I said, I'm just about 3/4 of the way through. I have a tiny bit left, but I can say from what I've read, it's wonderful. And we're going to talk about that. So I wanted to start out by jumping right into an excerpt from the introduction, if that works for you. Uh-oh, and you're frozen. Oh, there you are. I lost you for a sec. Can you hear me, Cheryl?
Yep, I'm sorry. I don't know what happened.
Here it is. No, we're good. We're good. Okay, so what I was saying is I want to jump right into an excerpt from the introduction. And I mean, it grabbed my attention right away, right from the very first paragraph that you wrote, and in which you said, "When I began this journey to self-discovery, I found it extremely lonely. As a recovering Christian, Southern Baptist, African American, woman, wife, mother, and every other label assigned to me and believed wholeheartedly, I found myself in a very dark place where my only way out was honesty. My only way out was to tell the complete truth." And so that, to tell the complete truth, that is no small task, at all. It's something that I've certainly worked on quite a bit in my own life, and it's been very cathartic when I've been able to do it. But I would love to hear more about that in this kind of the first steps in this journey of yours into self-discovery. What better place to start than that?
Yeah, yeah. Well, so Tales from Eternity is that's the story. It's the prelude to Firing God.
Okay.
Okay, Firing God is my first book,
Yes.
and Tales from Eternity are all the stories that I wrote before that.
Mm.
They Something happened to me, and I wasn't sure what it was.
Mm.
Okay, and Tales from Eternity is me just trying to figure out what that was. And uh, it was it was looking at all of the things that was happening, like literally every day, all around me, and being able to see what was true about that, see what the story was about it,
Yeah.
and then see what the underlying, what the story wasn't.
Mm.
Okay. What was not a story about those things. And it was very scary. Uh,
Sure.
it was very scary to see that. And telling the truth is not easy. It's not an easy thing to do. And when I say tell the truth, I don't mean, not telling a lie. I mean, it's not the same thing. It's something that happens before language.
Sure.
It's it's a lot more to do with, integrity, being really, here, really who you actually are. And I mean, there's so much in that phrase, telling the truth,
Yeah.
that has nothing to do with words at all.
Right. Right.
It's yeah, but finally saying, "Yeah, I really just don't know. I have no idea what's going on here."
Mm.
It took a lot to finally say that and really, really see that.
Yeah.
I have no idea what's going on.
And when that happened for you, what do you feel was the result of that? What did that open up for you? What was the experience thereafter from that?
Well, first of all, it was a relief.
Mm.
It was such a relief.
Yeah.
I There was actually a feeling of a weight being lifted, like a weight that I didn't even know was there.
Sure.
I had no idea it was there. Uh, so that was the first thing, and from when that weight was gone, that's when like questions just sprouted, like from all over the
Yeah.
place. They just, from all over, questions that I never would have thought to ask, ever,
Yeah.
ever. They just came from all over. And so that's, and I didn't even know. So I was asking questions, but I didn't know what I was looking for.
Mm.
It was like questions to try to find what. But they were just questions. Like, I grew up as a Christian
Yeah.
and Southern Baptist, and I was asking questions about Bible stories that I had never thought to ask before.
Mm.
For what? Why would I ask those questions? There was no reason to.
Right.
But here I was asking those questions, and I didn't know why. Why do I need to ask that question? But they were being asked, and I wasn't getting an answer, which made me ask another question. And it just kept going on and on and on. So,
Right. This rabbit hole is a
yeah.
deep one. It's a deep one. Well, so let's explore that a little bit further. The aspect you mentioned of growing up Southern Baptist Christian, that theme is obviously very heavy in your book, and of course had a very deep impact in your life. So maybe you could talk a little bit about that experience, both during and then thereafter, and what that may have caused for you, or how that shaped who you are today, your experience now, whatever comes up for you in that regard.
Yeah. I really, that was all I knew,
Yeah.
okay? Because, that's really all I knew. I grew up in southern Louisiana,
Yeah.
and religion it's ubiquitous down there,
Sure.
everywhere. It's not just the church. I mean, it's in school, it's in the grocery store, it's everywhere,
Yeah.
everywhere you go, literally.
Yeah.
And just the idea, like I didn't even know what an atheist was. I mean, how
Wow.
could someone not believe in God? How is that even possible? You
Yeah.
know, I didn't even know that was possible. And here I was considering that there possibly couldn't be a being out there looking at me or hearing the words that I'm saying right now. Can you imagine
I can't. I can like try to, but it,
that nobody hears me
yeah.
and nobody sees me? I mean, that was the most I was I was so upset when I finally saw that nobody sees me.
Mm,
I was hurt and oh man, I can't even explain how that was,
sure.
you know? Um yeah, that was hard. That was very hard. But see, but that's part of telling the truth,
Yeah.
you know? And the thing is that once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it,
Mm,
you know? I wanted to forget. I really did, you know, and I remember telling my big sister that I could not go back to Christianity because it wasn't there.
mm,
It's not that I didn't want to go back. There was nothing to go back to. It was just gone. You know, it was gone. There was nothing to go back. Whatever was there before, it had substance to it.
yeah.
Like there was actually something, I don't know what it was, but there was actually something there, you
Yeah.
know, that was just not there anymore.
Mm,
Um, yeah, it was just gone.
mm. And so here you are now on the other side of that. I mean, that obviously to say would have been a crisis of faith, I think that doesn't begin to do justice for what it sounds like your
Yeah,
experience was, because what you knew your whole life, right, is gone. Now you're in this completely groundless state. I can just
yeah.
imagine like a free fall feeling of,
That's the exact word. There was nothing, I couldn't grab onto anything. There was
right.
nothing, there was nothing there.
Yeah. So
It was,
so how did you navigate that as you worked, as you experienced it? What was that like for you? What did you do?
I just fell.
Hmm.
That's it.
That's
I fell. And I remember lying in my bed. I was so frustrated because I knew there was something, but I didn't know why, like, what is this? Because I wasn't looking for anything, you know, I just, oh my goodness. Like I said in my bio, I was just tired, you
yeah.
know, I was tired of trying to live. And I was like, why is it so hard? You know, the birds make it look so simple.
Right.
Can I be a bird? Can I just do that? You know, why is living so hard? I just wanted just a little bit easier, just a little bit, you
Yeah.
know? And and then this thing happened, you know, and I actually wanted to be a better Christian is what I was looking for,
Yeah.
you know? But I was just so exhausted, you know, to where I said, you know what? I just give up. I clearly can't do it.
Yeah.
Okay. I can't be whatever God wants me to be. So fine. I just said, fine. You know, I can't do it.
Yeah.
And that's when whatever happened happened. But I wasn't looking for that, you
Right.
know? And, you know, and I remember lying in bed just crying, totally frustrated because I didn't know, I don't know, like, it's like I'm looking for something and I know there's something, but it's not what this is, but I just don't know. It was just so confusing.
Yeah.
And
Sure.
the frustration was off the charts. It
Yeah.
really, really was.
Yeah.
And I think in one of those stories, I said, seeking is a bitch. You
Yes.
know?
Yeah.
And I was like, I couldn't get rid of it. It was like, get off of me. You know, it's like when I wake up, I'm on the toilet, I'm in the tub, it was just it was like, leave me alone.
Yeah.
It's awful.
Well,
So frustrating.
so that it kind of segues pretty nicely into the next excerpt I wanted to read from your book. And I don't know if this is the same experience you're talking about or not, but I think it'll still transitioned quite nicely. And you write, some time ago, on a sunny day in May, I had an experience, a reminder that led me to see life from an entirely new perspective. My search was no longer for security, happiness, wealth, love, peace, or joy. My search was for truth. Actually, my search was to find out what the hell happened to me that day. So, is that the experience you're talking about, or is this a different one? And either way, I would love for you to elaborate a bit more on that experience.
Yeah. So there were two things that happened.
Yeah.
There was the one day where I talked about being released from chains, where I finally felt like I could tell the truth. And
Right.
that's when I told God, I'm tired. I'm not doing this anymore. You can fuck off. I'm done with you.
Yeah.
And that's when I felt like, the chains had been lifted, and, that weight wasn't on me anymore. And then like a few months after that, that's when I, was at work, and I had that really frightening experience where my palms were sweaty and my heart was beating really fast. For some reason, I thought I was dying, having a heart attack at 30 something, which was totally ridiculous because I'm a healthy, 30 something year old. And then all of a sudden I just felt like, I was in eternity.
Mm.
And, everything around me was there, and, that was that experience. And, from there is really where all of the things started happening. The questions began to arise,
Yeah.
and all of those things.
Yeah.
Because I had no idea what that was. So I went home and started Googling, already in eternity. Because I'm like, this, I can't be the only one that this has happened to, right? Somebody else has to have experienced this thing, right?
Right.
So, that's when I started looking for stuff.
And so, who did you stumble upon? Was there any books or teachers, or what helped you as you started to move forward from this experience?
Well, when I Googled, the first person that I saw, so I typed in things like already in heaven, already in eternity, feels like I'm in eternity, things like that. So
Yeah.
some of the things that I felt that day.
Yeah.
And one guy came up, his name was Osho,
Yep.
right?
Sure.
So I clicked on him and I listened for a while. He was saying, I had no idea what he was talking about. I really didn't. I'm like, I just didn't get it.
Okay.
I didn't know what he was saying,
Yeah.
right? So who else did I found the guy who just died recently. What is his name?
Huston Smith?
No, he
No.
had a bald head. He used to go on stage.
Wayne Dyer.
Wayne Dyer,
Yeah.
yeah. He was a lot easier to understand.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was a lot easier to understand. So I listened to a few things, but he wasn't really hitting what had happened.
Yeah.
So who else did I hear? I found A Course in Miracles.
Oh yeah.
That stuff was weird, but it was more what had happened.
Yeah.
It was really getting to what I had experienced.
Yeah.
But I didn't do all those lessons and stuff. It was,
It's a solid read.
yeah. And it was really Jesus-y, and I just told God to fuck off and stuff. I wasn't, so so I read a little bit of that, but and then I started to find, like, I listened to some of what what's his name? I just saw this guy. Oh my goodness. Some of the other gurus, like Muji, I listened
Sure.
to.
Yeah.
Yeah, so some of those other folks,
Yeah.
and they were saying some stuff, but like I said in one of the other interviews, what I was really looking for was, I was looking for me. Like,
Yeah.
I was looking for someone who looked like me, because I was still going through, like, life was still happening.
Yeah.
I didn't have time for spiritual stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't. Like, I was really going through it at that time.
Yeah.
And I didn't have time for universe things. I had to take care of, my house and my job and my kids and my health, and, I had bills and foreclosures and all these things going on. I needed somebody who understood all of that
Yeah.
to help me with my emotional issues and, all these things. meditation and all that stuff was not on my list of things to do, you
Sure.
know, all these spiritual things. So I tried to push all that stuff aside, but it wouldn't go.
Mm.
So, you know, I attempted to talk to people who did look like me, you know, and who I could identify with, but everybody I knew was a Christian,
Yeah.
you know, or had those tendencies. So I was hearing stuff about, you know, just pray about it and God's going to work it out. And that just wasn't working for me
Right.
anymore, you
Right.
know? So that's when I went to my stories. And I just, you know, because I couldn't leave it alone. It wouldn't leave me alone.
Yeah.
So but they just became one thing,
Yeah.
you know, the house foreclosure and the divorce and whatever was going on,
Mm.
they just became one thing.
Yeah.
There was no separation between the spiritual and the material or whatever.
Right.
You know, it's all the same. It was just all the same thing.
Right. And I appreciate that you say that, because I've found in my own travels a lot of people like to compartmentalize their spirituality and their practice as a formal sitting, you know, my zafu for 20, 30 minutes, my yoga class. But then, like you said, foreclosures happen. People die. Bills need to get paid. Children need to have food put on the table for them. Like, so there is no separation between any of it. And I love, love, love one of the chapters in your book called One Color, which to me,
Mhm.
this was such a tremendously profound and beautiful way to explain just what we're talking about. And I have another expert I want to share from that, and then we'll talk about it a little further. So you write, and again, this is just a brief part of this really wonderful chapter. You write, look around you. Take note of what you see, including yourself. Now think of a color. Any color will do. But let's pick red, for instance. Now imagine that everything around you, including yourself, was red. Not only are things around you the color red, but actions are red as well. The act of seeing, hearing, breathing, speaking, typing, running, walking, sleeping, thinking, smelling, etc. Speaking is also red, and the space between things is red, with everything known and unknown made of the color red. Tell me what red is. I love that. I mean, and it goes on, and I actually wanted to write more, but I figured that'd be a good place to stop so we could talk a little more about it. Because just like we were saying, where does one thing start and stop? Unless it's in the mind, you know, and we're creating that false division, that
Yeah.
illusory boundary. So I would love to hear more about your experience with this.
Yeah. So the day that I wrote that story, it was actually a really bad day for me
Yeah.
because I was feeling extremely, when I say extremely, I mean like extremely isn't even, it was almost like I couldn't breathe. I was
Mm.
so claustrophobic. There was such a feeling of claustrophobia. I went outside and it was like I couldn't get out of something,
Yeah.
you know? I didn't have room, you know, I just did not have any room.
Yeah.
So, that's what that story is. There was just no space, even though I just felt like I had no space, you
Mm.
know? And that's where that story came from.
Mm. As I'm reading it, I was looking at it from this non-dual perspective of
Hmm.
everything is, like we were saying, there is no separation.
Hmm.
It's all one. So I appreciated, like, imagine if everything really was red, and not just everything, but like you were saying, thoughts, smells, and
Yeah.
all the sensations, the totality of this human experience. And that to me was a really, the way I took it was a very beautiful way of conveying the ultimate reality, the unmanifest and manifest as one intertwined, the whole dance. You
Yeah.
know, I really, that's how I took it, and I really appreciated it that way. So, but when you wrote it, you didn't actually mean it in that way, or you?
No, that's what I'm saying.
That
I
is
mean,
what you're saying. Okay.
yeah, there's
Yes.
no
No.
space. There's
No.
no separation between anything.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
I
it's
thought
all
I
this. Yeah,
I just
yeah,
wanted to be clear in my understanding of what
yeah,
you were
yeah.
saying now, because I was a little confused. You were saying you were having a very bad day. You felt you
Yeah,
had no space. I didn't know if you meant claustrophobic, but I see what you're saying. So yes, that is
yeah,
exactly
yeah,
how you meant it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Because it just not being used to, because I felt like I just had. It was a day where um I just felt like I had no sense of control of anything. It was very with all these things going on
Yeah.
in my life at the time, you know,
Yeah.
nothing was in my hands.
Yeah.
I couldn't manipulate stuff the way that I wanted to,
Right. Right.
things were just happening, you know, and, clouds were just going by,
Mm.
there was nothing I could do about it.
Yeah.
The wind was just blowing, the sky was just blue.
Yeah.
I couldn't do anything about that.
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
that was awful. It
Yeah.
was terrible. Yeah.
So what what do you do today then? Because I know some people will listen to others talk about non-duality, and that even talking about non-duality is duality, because here we are talking about it. There's, so I get that end of things, but a lot of people are very staunch, like you need to be a practitioner of this lineage or that lineage for many, many years, and, or many, many lifetimes even before you will have this experience that we're talking about, this everything is red experience. So you've had the experience. In Buddhism, they might call it stream entry, where you have that, holy shit, like, there is no me. Literally, there is no self, this imagined self. It doesn't exist. It's all a mind created illusion. But then, so some people will have that, and it'll be, I mean, this I think is rare, but fully integrated. They're in the moment. It's like, huh, okay. Ramana Maharshi is an example. I don't know if you've stumbled across any of his stuff, but yeah, an old Indian sage. So there are those people that have had that, but then a teacher like Adyashanti, one of the today's contemporary non-dual teachers, talks about how a lot of people have this experience, and then it takes, a couple of years, maybe longer, for them to really integrate it if they work with it, so it becomes more of their experience. So they're not living from a place of duality, of separation. For you, what's your experience been since all of this has happened? What is it like for you today? Because I know in your bio, which I loved, you were very honest. Like, you still have this shitty commute to work. Like, I can relate. That sucks. Life still happens. So, are you like in this? It's all one. It's all good, or is it like, does life still just suck and it is what it is?
Um, I don't know. I mean, what is it like? I guess comparing it to, I don't know, my life as a Christian,
Sure.
I'm certainly more open.
Mm.
I'm not as, I don't keep secrets from myself
Yeah.
like I did before. Um, as a Christian, I made a pathology of suppressing my feelings. I don't do that anymore. Um, I um, I enjoy being real with people.
Yeah.
I actually like that.
Yeah.
I like showing people who Cheryl is,
Yeah.
you know? Um, and I enjoy inviting people to do the same
Yeah.
with me. Yeah, so that's different.
I've I've loved. We recently connected on Facebook, and I've seen that. Like, I absolutely adore your posts because they
Uh,
are 100% real. You put out whatever's coming up for you. But the important thing, I think, is you invite people to be real with you as well. So it's like, here's what I'm thinking, here's what's coming up for me, but, what about you? And then it turns into some pretty interesting conversations that happen. And I actually have, if we have time, I hope we do, a couple of posts you made last week just so we can explore.
oh,
But
yeah.
um, I still want to talk a little more about the book. But no, I really do. I've enjoyed watching those interactions on your Facebook page. I think it's great.
Oh, you
Um,
see this, huh?
Oh, I see those all right. Yes, I see them. I love it. It's great. It's real, and that's that's why I wanted to have you on. Is I see the authenticity and just being honest about what's going on. One thing, anyone who knows me, one of the big even the word, um, one of the big issues, for lack of putting it more eloquently, I have in the quote unquote spiritual arena of teachers and authors is that so much of it is watered down. So much of it really, and this will sound judgmental, but my experience of it has been bullshit. It's more about marketing, it's more about sales, it's more about, wow, I can have a lucrative career if I, do this or take that approach. And I mean, it's pretty glaringly obvious, I think, to those that have the eyes to see it. But we also live in a time and a culture where it's easy, to have that wool pulled over our eyes and to get really sucked up into these things. So, anyways, I'm not a fan of that. I've said it a million times on my show before. I'll say it a million times, afterwards. So I appreciate people like you that will write so authentically, and just say, here's what's coming up for me. The good, the bad, the ugly. Like, here it
Mhm.
is. Like, and just do with it what you will. Let's talk about it. Let's
Yeah.
not, whatever. Um, so let me share then, and this goes back to something you did already quote earlier, but another chapter, am I enlightened yet? And the expert I took from that is starting with seeking is a bitch. Love that. It's all I think about all day, every day. I go to sleep thinking about this thing that can't be known, and I wake up thinking about it, whatever it is. It's on my mind when I'm driving, when I'm eating, when I'm interacting with other people, when I'm in the shower, when I'm on the toilet, when I'm at work, and when I'm sitting quietly. I walk in the forest for hours, sit, read books, fast, ask questions, don't ask questions, don't read, etc., all in the hopes of getting it. What is it? What am I looking for? Where is it? I want to know. I want to find it. I want relief from this thing that clearly isn't it. It's freaking annoying, and it's sometimes worse than whatever I was doing before I started searching for it. Then one day it hit me. Cheryl, you're not seeking enlightenment, awakening, or salvation. You're not trying to find truth. You're trying to get away. You're still trying to get the hell out of here. So first of all, that's a perfect example of what I was just saying. Like, when you're willing to show, like, your rawness, to me, that's a beautifully vulnerable piece that speaks to the truth. Like, here it is. Like, and I'm trying to get away. I'm trying to get the hell out of here. So many people, myself included, for years in the beginning of my own journey, was what is called spiritual. Well, spiritual bypassing is thrown a lot around a lot now, but spiritual materialism was the original term coined by a Buddhist teacher, Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche, where we're just replacing one thing for another. So a lot of this spirituality I was just talking about a few moments ago, instead of peeling away these layers like you're writing about and finding out what the hell's really going on, we're
Yeah.
just adding more layers on. We're spiritualizing our ego. We're learning this new language, and we're buying these new clothes and beads, and it's just a new identity for the ego to mask whatever it is we're trying to get away from, case by case basis there. So where were you trying to get the hell out of? I'd like to unpack that whole excerpt a little bit more. The trying to run away, the seeking, the trying to find the truth. What is truth? I know I just threw a whole lot at you. So taking all of that bombardment I just hit you with, what comes to mind? Anything, whatever comes up for you from all of that.
um, uh, is trying to get away from me. From me,
Mm.
I guess. I actually just got an email from a lady who's reading the book too, where she asked me kind of the same question. I forgot how she phrased it, but um, she said what she found was that she was trying to do something, but she asked me what was my problem, like what was my issue, that I
Sure.
started to search or whatever, and And I said that I think the issue was that my I found that my problem, well, what I thought was that my problem in life was so hard because I was in it. That's why life was hard. It's because I was here. If it weren't for me being here, life would be a piece of cake.
Mm.
Okay. Now, how can I be here and still enjoy life? That's the conundrum. Okay.
Yeah.
So, how can I do that? That's the dilemma, right? And so I was trying to escape. Like I was trying to escape, but enjoy life, right?
Yeah.
Because for some reason I thought that I was the problem.
Mm.
Cheryl's the problem here. That's what the issue is. So it's about looking at that. Is that really the case? Is Cheryl the problem? Is Cheryl? I mean, what is this Cheryl thing that you're talking about anyway?
So let's talk about that, because exactly that goes back to the whole no self thing we were talking
Yeah,
about
yeah.
earlier. So life is happening. The problem is that I believe Chris is happening in this life, but what is Chris? Really, what is Chris? So what is Cheryl?
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
a, yeah, I would love to hear your thoughts on that.
Uh, Cheryl seems to be a really Cheryl's a habit. Cheryl's a habit that I like.
Persistent one, right?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. She's a habit, and yeah, yeah. One thing that I saw, and I've been thinking about this a lot, and it's just come up again, right? So that day when I don't know, just was so excited to see that we're all doing too much
Yeah.
and there's too many cooks in the kitchen and all this is, unnecessary. One thing that really fascinated me was the fact that there was a computer here.
Mm.
I was so fascinated by the fact that there's a computer in eternity. I mean, that was the funniest thing ever. Like, what the heck is a computer doing here, right? Because I was in my office at the time
Yeah.
when it happened, right? And I was like, why? I've thought like to this date, why was that such a fascinating thing that there was a computer there, you know? And and the idea of a computer, the idea of any idea is just so, even an idea like Cheryl or Chris, I mean, it's just such a creative and I don't know, fascinating thing.
Mm.
And also the fact that it's so new, like right now, it's just being created like right now, like it's brand new, like it's never the same ever. It's always brand new, right? So Cheryl's a habit, but she's brand new, like in every moment,
Yeah.
right now and now and now. It's just so, it's fascinating. She gets a bad rap, we give it a bad rap and stuff like that, but it's so amazing when you really think about it,
Mm.
that it's even here,
Yeah.
you know?
And so, say I'm listening to this conversation as an outsider,
Mm-hmm.
and well, first of all, let's say I'm still listening and haven't written you and I off as two batshit crazy people. So let me just get that out of the way. So let's say someone is still with us. No, I'm sure plenty of people are still listening. But they're listening because some part of them resonates with what we're talking about. And it's like, you know what? I've felt that, or I've had a little glimpse into this. I'm using the term no self thing, but it goes by different names.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, what would you say, Cheryl, if they're like, if the question then arises, well, so I've had this little glimpse, or it resonates, it feels right what they're talking about. How do I go deeper into that? How do I go deeper into seeing through this persistent habit of Chris or Cheryl or whomever the listener's name is? What is one thing that can be done to help start to possibly lay aside this habit of believing who we are? Or do you not really have any formal practices or anything that you do?
I don't.
Yeah.
I get that question. Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I get that question so much. I don't know.
Yeah.
I really don't know.
Mm.
Because I didn't do anything.
You know what I liked that you said earlier was you had a lot of questions come up. And not even that you, but the
Yeah.
questions just started coming up. I think that in and of itself is a profoundly powerful practice. If not only the questions come up, but we really go down that rabbit hole and start seeking, so just from our conversation, what I'm taking away is question. And don't just question, like really go all the way with it. And then if 100 other questions come up, keep digging and digging, going deeper and deeper.
And you know what else, too?
Yeah.
The questions came after I told the truth
Mm.
to myself, after
Yeah.
I stopped lying to myself. I have this one story. It's actually on my blog.
Yeah.
It's called The Other Woman.
Yeah.
And I talk about my three roles that I played where okay, what are the three roles? I was married and my husband cheated.
Mm.
I was married and I cheated, and someone else was married and I was the other woman.
Mm-hmm.
I was in all of those roles. Okay. And I talk about how in all of those roles, I had to tell the truth. Okay. And I give like a script of what, like, yes, or what the person would say in each of those roles when they tell the truth about what it is.
Yeah.
None of that excuse, well, I'm the wife and, he's a bad person, or I'm the husband, whatever the role is. She's a bad person. She knew I had kids and she shouldn't have done that. No, tell the truth about what's going on. Okay. I don't feel good about myself, and I ran this person away, or whatever the case may be, right? There's a truth in there that's not being told, right? That needs to be in all of those situations. Okay. And that's the kind of thing that I probably should have put that story in that book, because I think that's a really good one.
Yeah.
But people can read it on my blog. It's right there for free. You don't have to pay for that. But that's like the kind of thing that I'm talking about. And that's hard to do.
Yeah.
Okay. Because that's what we don't want to do.
Right.
Okay. We want to blame and shift and all this other kind of stuff to get the spotlight off ourselves. Right.
Of course.
But those questions can't come up if that fertile soil isn't there for them to be able to do that.
Yeah. And so, Cheryl, the last thing I wanted to ask you about, unfortunately, we won't have time to get to some of those fun Facebook topics that I was talking about. I'll also have to have you on the show again at another time so we can do that.
Okay.
But another part of the book, and I think this will be a nice place to end up on, it's called You Can't Be Saved Alone. And you write, you can't be saved alone. You must take, or I'm sorry, the whole piece is called You Can't Be Saved Alone. You must take everyone with you. And in it, you write, I have to say that the most awesome and beautiful thing about this perception is that I can't get into heaven by myself. And I'm not referring to a physical place called heaven, as I no longer invest in such a belief, but let's pretend for the sake of this example. While awesome and beautiful, this was one of the most difficult ideas to entertain. And that's what I'd love to hear a little bit about is entertaining this idea that's big, that's really big.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, The idea of enemies is one of the most loved ideas, um, not just as a Christian, but I think as a human.
Yeah.
That's just a human thing to have an enemy, you know? Um, and I just don't see that, from this perspective. There just isn't that.
Mhm.
And that wasn't easy. That wasn't an easy thing to see, you know? Yeah, that wasn't easy to see. We're either
Yeah.
all going to heaven or we're all going to hell. I mean,
Right. Which kind of goes back to the no boundary thing before the no
yeah, exactly.
separation, right?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's when I watched Trump get elected, not that I want to turn this political, but like that's a perfect example for me of remembering, that underneath, this scared little man is me. And underneath this weirdo named Chris is him, and it's
Hmm.
just this one and the same at that level. But then, of
Yeah.
course, the mind stuff comes up, and it's like you're saying earlier, projections, and it's a wonderful opportunity, or I try to use it on a good day as an invitation to come back and remember that, and also to
Hmm.
look at the shadow shit that I'm projecting, because there's stuff
Yeah.
in me that's I'm putting out onto him, or even I'm putting out onto people I love. It doesn't just have to be difficult people in the world,
Oh,
like
yeah. Yeah.
so. But to me, that's why the book you wrote is so important, and that's why I have a deep reverence for so many of these wonderful wisdom non-dual teachers out there that are helping point us back to us. The us with, if we're spiritually speaking, we'd use a capital U because it's one. It's just us, one self, no
Yeah.
self. Um, so, Cheryl, again, the name of the second book is Tales from Eternity, Armageddon, Orgasms, Kittens, and Gravity. Fun and entertaining pointers to the truth. Your first book, which of course now I'm going to have to read when I finally finish that one, is called Fire and God. Your website is CherylAbram.com, and that's CherylAbram, or just scroll down a little to wherever you're watching or listening to this, and the link will be right there. So, Cheryl, thank you so much for being with me today. Thanks for putting this wonderful work out into the world. It's appreciated, needed, and again, just appreciated. So, thanks, Cheryl.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.